Hi everyone, I am here with Beth Perry. Hey Beth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you so much for having me on, Shell. I'm so excited to be here and get a chance to talk with you today, and all of you that are listening. I hope you feel blessed and inspired by being a fly on the wall. My name is Bethany Perry, and I am the founder of the Kaizen Woman. I have been a coach for 22 years, and it is I like to say that people and places are my passions. Happier lives is my mission. And so I'm excited to see what comes out in this back and forth that we're going to have.
It's so exciting. So for a background, I always give a little bit of background of like how we met. So Beth is coming to you from a long time ago, but then semi-recent too. And so that is that we first met when we were both young, through church, right? Through Pleasant Street. And then didn't know each other then. And then a friend calls and is like, hey, I have this coach you were working at the gym that you owned. And hey, I'd like you to meet her, da da da. And when I show up, I'm like, oh, we knew each other, but like more by face and name. And so started working together through your gym. Then you morphed into more of the individual coaching, and we've worked together through there. And it's just been this really awesome chance to not only be your client, but to see you grow. You know, it's been really an honor to watch you from this little girl that I would see, even though come to find out you're only a couple years younger. It's been really cool to see, because back at the time when I was
When you're in the preteen tween age, a couple years is a big gap, but
it really does feel like
now
that.
like where we're at now, it's nothing.
Exactly. I always think about that, although I'm still not ready to marry like a 60-year-old yet. I'm still holding some ground there. But so it's been really great to see your career take off. And so when we were thinking about people to have on here, you came to mind automatically because I love what you're doing. And so would you mind sharing with the Essential Creative community what you do?
Sure. Well, and I think one of the things that you just highlighted is what I do, or what I do is because of my own journey. And, it's that process of Kaizen stands for mastering the art of continually improving. And so this lifelong personal development journey that I've been on, of course, has expressed in my professional life. And, my first degree is in sports medicine. And there was a lot of psychological training for high performance and team dynamics and leadership, and also the difference between masculine and feminine energy, all from an incredibly scientific background. And I'm sharing that because where I am today as the coaching that I do now is all about mindset and energy and communication. And we actually have a signature process, the Kaizen communication tool that I teach. And it's bringing in human design and bringing in human needs psychology. And then at the same time, that where I started, which was all science and all about, very rigid processes, whereas now everything I do is about helping people understand themselves as an individual and in a unique way. It sounds so different, but at the same time, it's all built on each other. So I actually still use a lot of the physiology pieces in the mindset techniques and communication techniques and the ways that our body expresses and gives us clues that I would never be able to do if I hadn't had that foundation. So, that process in my professional life is, first of all, because, I graduated high school early. I was 17, and I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do in my whole life. I thought I knew everything at 17. And it's just wild to me to be in a place where I have so much gratitude for all of the detours I've taken on my life, and how looking back, they all connect. And I've found a way to really help that be one of my powers, instead of something, where I didn't switch industries 4 times and they're completely unrelated. I built on winning awards as a coach in 4 different industries. So, you mentioned that we met up again at my gym. Like, for a while I had an in-person fitness studio where even in that space, I was doing mindset workshops, and I was doing, my private clients would end up well, I guess we just saved my marriage because of the chit chat in the workout session. So it was always more than just, I always knew that there was something more. And honestly, I still believe there's more. So, talk to me in a year or 5 years from now, we'll see where my career has expanded to, but it's always building on who I've been, not in a way that I was wrong or that I'm not still me. I've always been me in this whole process. And to me, I think that's something that a lot of people don't give themselves permission to do. They feel like, well, nope, I have to stay the same, but there's this inside desire for more or for growth. I mean, if you think about it, it's a universal principle. Everything grows. A tree doesn't stop growing until it dies. And I don't believe that humans do either. I think it's a natural process to embrace. And I love supporting people when they realize, you know what? I don't want to get to the end of my life and not have been all of me and the best of me. And it's a little scary sometimes, but that's what I love supporting people in, because I have so much respect for the courage it takes to do that. And I also understand how many road traps there are, because I've done it myself for over 2 decades in my own career.
That's something you said that I would love to expand on. That's really
Okay.
good. The permission to change. I think that's so important. We look at what we talk about a lot around here is creativity and how it comes in all these different packages. And so many people think it's about being able to write or paint or create these certain like tangible things, but sometimes it's being willing to think outside the box and improve on something that you don't think is improvable. And I think with just so much of what society's been for the last several decades, we've gotten to these places where we carry all this baggage with us from childhood up into adulthood. And then we feel like, well, if we started our career here, it has to end here. And then we feel like we failed if we stop and pivot a little, or if we stop and, God forbid, actually restart. And that's something that over the last few years I've seen within career industry has really changed a lot, with people starting like second careers and it being a more acceptable thing. So talk some more on that permission to change, like what that looks like, and maybe how the creativity comes in and really just stepping outside of your own mind or within it, as you're so good at doing. Because it is so true that you're so straightforward and you have just even a conversation with you and it's like this aha moment.
I love it. So one of the things that popped into my head as you were describing your definition, or how sometimes people get stuck even, well, I'm not creative. I would even offer, starting the permission with yourself to just redefine what creative means. And you can look it up on Webster, but how does that, to me, and I'm just kind of making this up in the moment, that based on as I was listening to you, but everybody creates something. And one way that I am not very, it's not in my zone of genius, let's say, is with certain like spreadsheets, and I've learned how to do them out because they were essential for me. But it's, I know that when I hired a bookkeeper, for example, watching how effortless it was for my bookkeeper to create these solutions and add so much value to my life and to my business, that's their way of being creative. And so it doesn't have to be, I love how you said it's not always about painting or writing, or there's no limit to how you can be creative. And if you redefine it, how it's coming to mind for me right now is, well, what do you enjoy creating? And it doesn't even have to be in your career. It can just be in your life, a creative outlet, a way of self-expressing your natural ability, tapping into your greatness. And so if you can start the permission process just with redefining, hey, maybe I am creative because I do create things. Do you create things in the kitchen? Do you create magical connections with people, and relationships and friendships is just a natural gift that you have? That's what you're creating. You're creating positive energy between people. Maybe you do create art through paint, or art through sculpting, or maybe the art that you create in your life is a spreadsheet or a very like tangible, tactile thing that is, maybe it has a lot of structure. So that part all of a sudden, I think, opens up to freedom when we can redefine terms in a way that gives us more freedom to find ourselves and to feel good about ourselves. Then the brain, like our brain's number one job is to keep us alive. So if we feel like, oh, that's not safe because I don't fit in there, then your brain will hold you back from making a change.
Mm.
And the brain's second thing, or well, it's not the second job, but its second favorite thing to do is to be right. So if your brain is, your subconscious is telling you that's not safe, you might experience rejection or you might experience failure if you make this change, that's fear. Fear is the same chemical reaction in our brain. It's the same physiological experience that we have, whether it's a grizzly bear chasing us or we're afraid someone's going to turn us down for a lunch date. If a client is going to say no, if we're not going to get the promotion, so we don't even ask, or we're not going to succeed at being creative, right? And so that first layer of protection is our body and our subconscious, and energetically, if we're afraid of something, then we have to be able to have a conversation. This is where emotional intelligence and energetic intelligence comes into play, where you can have a conversation and say, okay, is this actually putting my life in danger? Like, if I do a Facebook Live, is that the same as a grizzly bear coming at me? Because my body and my subconscious don't know the difference. They just say, I'm afraid. So once you get to that level, then the second thing that I really hope makes sense to people listening, especially, but is that our brain loves to be right. So if I decide, using a Facebook Live, for example, I don't know why that's popping in my head, but we'll go with it. So if I'm afraid of doing a Facebook Live and I realize, okay, I'm not actually in any physical or mental or emotional danger. So that's fear. I'm going to choose to move forward with it. But then I mess up the technology, or nobody likes my live stream, or something happens. And I'm like, well, see, I knew it. I was right. And a lot of times people will realize, okay, I'm not actually in danger, but it probably won't work anyway because we want to be right. So we take ourselves out of the game before we even try. And that's where it's like taking that first step, taking that baby step to just make a shift, make a small shift. If you imagine a boat traveling between continents, if it's 1 degree off course, that makes a big difference over the long term. So the little things, like giving yourself permission to be a little more creative, be a little more proud of yourself, be a little more curious about how powerful your natural talents and your natural gifts might be a little more open to like, maybe I could make more money or have more love or have more energy or have more health in my life if I X, Y, or Z.
You just said about 3 things and I'm like, oh. So first of all, somebody needs to come up with like a little intro on, this is totally a side note, but hilarious in my mind. Cause as you were talking about the grizzly bear, and we've done some training around this. So what? Like, so what if you go live and nobody comes? But I was like, I just had this image as you were talking, like somebody creating, like, you know how everyone does those intros for their video, and it just being a person running from a grizzly bear. That would be awesome. Bonus points to whoever of you comes up with that on your next
I
one.
love memes. If someone made that meme for me, I would be so impressed.
Brownie points.
So
We'll work out what the winning is later. It may just be brownie points and kudos. But that image just came to me and it's so funny. There was a couple things you said. I love that you brought up creativity. It's in my little notepad down here. But so creativity and connections. If you make magical connections, you know, that is so true, because it's not everybody has the gift to hear somebody speak and truly hear what they need, and then be able to identify somebody else that they know or have heard of. And there's a partnership there or a potential connection. So I love that you brought that up. Something else along those same lines, and this I would love you to talk about. you are the queen of and taught me about both and. I had always been, I know. I see it
that and
there.
sign right
I
there.
see
You
it. Oh
gifted
my
me that, and
gosh.
I love it.
That's
I see it
right.
every day. For those of you, like, it's what I'm pointing at
Straight
right here.
back.
It's this beautiful, like, carved wooden and symbol. And Shell actually gifted that to me a while back now, but it's one of
Yeah.
my favorites, and I have it right there. I see it all the time. I'm also noticing, talk about, you can tell a business owner who has a toddler when she just moves her jewelry to her desk, because I have to take it off when I leave the office.
I saw that earlier and I was like, that's, I got like the oils back here. And so I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is.
I just moved my jewelry straight from, it was not safe anywhere else, and it's not safe when I wear it to play with it. You know, I might lose an ear if I did, but the power of and, I love, it is true.
If we lose connection, it's just somebody is hitting a power line outside. So just to give a heads up, that was just two very loud like zaps with the transformer outside. So
Yeah,
I think we're safe,
it's a
but
pretty
just in case.
stormy day. I've been hearing the wind randomly, like, whoosh,
Oh
and I'm just like, well,
yeah. So for
we're on
those watching, if
part
we
one
lose,
now.
we're gonna
Get it all done in part one. We get it done in part one.
And if not, we come back for, oh my gosh, a third one. I hope whoever's hitting that thing is okay. So for those watching, we're in Connecticut. Bethany and I live about 20 minutes apart, and this storm is encountering all of us. So anyway, on the both and, because we will be safe and continue. On the both and, I really love that connection because I'd always been an either or person, especially coming from a very well, I got, started going to church when I was 17, but it was almost like I felt like when I first was learning it, it was always, you can either have fun or you can become a Christian. You could do, and it was so either or. And then as we got to know one another and I started working, like that's where I learned, even while working out with you, like I could eat Reese's and exercise more. And so like, while you can't outrun a bad fork, you taught me I didn't have to always sacrifice everything. And then as we've been working on the coaching, this has been huge for me, the both and. I can be a good mom and a good entrepreneur. And so that is definitely a message I've been sharing too. But Bethany is one of the originators. You've all heard me talk about my business coach. That is how I now work with Bethany. Let's talk about both and.
Sure. So I do love this concept because it is so powerful, especially when related to change, when people are going for more in their life. I worked with Jack Canfield, and like the creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he has an expression about sometimes we have to give up the good for the great. And when I was really embodying that in my life and my business, as in, and this was kind of when I was at the point of selling the fitness studio, because it was so good. I loved what I did. I loved the clients. I loved the community. I loved it all. It was good. And I wanted great. And there were sides of me. It had been almost 5 years that I had also been business coaching and doing mindset work, and I was really more passionate about that. And it was great because it also helped my fitness clients get better results to have the multiple components. But I knew I couldn't do both. I actually hit a real pivotal moment. I had been married for about a year, and I ended up going through a miscarriage, and I had been trying to start an online business while also running the full-time in-person business. And it just got to a point where it was good, but it wasn't working anymore. And I felt like I had to make a choice. Like you said, so many times we feel like it has to be either or. And what I gave myself permission to do is say, I can delegate more at the fitness studio and take care of my health right now. And my team was incredible. Like the community was so supportive. Like I got to really just take a step back, take some time off, and take care of me. And that was an either or in my life up until that point. I was like, I can either have a successful business, or I can take downtime and have relaxed time. It was very either or. And so that was mind blowing to me, because I could have a successful business and be connected to my clients and my community, and I didn't have to be there 24/7. That was a baby step for me in recognizing how many either ors I had been doing in my life up until that point. And I really started owning. So in my coaching, I never teach something I haven't lived and that I haven't fully embodied, unless it's a strategy where I'm like, okay, this strategy, I know it doesn't work for me. Because it's great to have somebody show you what worked for them, but it's better to have somebody show you what will work for you. So as far as like mindset practices though, and shifts like this, the technical details and strategy, I definitely customize, but I would never, it changed how I felt about my world. And so of course I'm going to bring that and say, hey, all of my clients, have you considered this concept? Because it's mind-blowingly effective at giving yourself permission to really, I think, tap into your desires more deeply. Because if it's not either or, and it's and, you can have love and money. You can be successful and generous. You can like your alone time and have friends.
Wait,
There's
what?
so many ways that this plays out in our life. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, if I can have both of them, then which one do I want? You can have both of them. Which one do I want more of? Which one do I want now? Do I want 50% alone time, 50% social time? Or do I want 90% alone time and 10%? I mean, I know we're kind of in a quarantine right now, so I think a lot of people would probably want more friend time than they're currently getting. But in most situations, the and is a possibility. And so I catch a lot of my clients mid-sentence, well, I have to da, 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 or else. And I'm like, or you could have both.
And that's something you're so good at, is when we go to say something and you're like, well, hold on a second, but, or and I like you've even done that. You've even taught that, like with our children, how to, you're 6, you want to drive the car. Yes. And we'll wait until you're 16.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait
exactly.
until.
Yeah. I really try not to tell Jackson, no, that's a whole different thing. But, it was really mind blowing to me that most people have heard it takes 3 positives to balance out a negative thing that you hear in your day. And no is a negative, even though, of course, like, no, you can't run in the road without, it's, yes, you can look at the car from the grass is how I would approach it. Right. Like, and so there's even just the challenge, the autopilot that I have gone into as a parent. So he's only 18 months old. So a lot of this stuff I have rewired in my adult life. But being a parent, so many autopilot things come up where it's just, whether it's the conditioning of how my parents talk to me, which I have a great relationship with my family. It's not about judging anything, but the social conditioning could come from how we see parenting done on TV or in movies. It can also come from, I was blown away by how many mom judges there are out there. Oh my goodness. Everybody's got an opinion and they know better than anybody else. And they're not scared to tell you when you're not doing it their way. So my personal choice about really trying not to use no, unless, first of all, I want it to be a standout, like, oh my gosh, if mom said no, like, you got to listen.
Hey everyone, we're here for round 2. Bethany, thank you so much for joining us again.
I'm so happy to be back with you, and on a less stormy day.
I know we actually don't have any rain or computer gremlins today, so there should be no reason we pause. So thank you everyone for staying with us. We're going to pick right back up where we left off, and that is that you were about to give us the statistic of how many times children are told no.
Yes, and what's interesting about the statistic to me is, again, we're getting back into the vibes here, but I know everybody else just heard me say, like probably 3 seconds ago, how typically it's, it's a socially accepted thing that it takes 3 positives to outweigh a negative. And so when I heard that children by the age of 5 are told no on average by the time they're 5 years old 150,000 times,
Wow.
and have only been told yes, I mean, like, I think it was less than 10,000 times. I mean, it was like just this like, and part of this process, I'm so aware of it because I'm noticing the personal development I'm going through as being a parent, and my son is less than 2 years old. So it's the autopilot I'm noticing when it comes to being a parent is very different than how I've rewired my brain and my skill sets and what I've trademarked as energetic intelligence. I've done a lot of work on myself as an adult, but there's something about parenting that I go right back into autopilot of like, this is how people talk to their kids, whether it's from how my parents talk to me or stuff we saw on TV and all the other ways that we see examples that condition us. And it's also one of the things that I'm learning so much from my son. He is an incredible teacher to me in my life. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And the statistic, hearing this, where I'm like, wow, like by the time they're 5 years old, like our brain isn't even psychologically capable of realizing consequences and impact and personal responsibility, cause and effect. Like there's so many things that happen around the age of 8. So to have so much conditioning of no versus yes being so small, think about like that just basically like is such a shutdown of how we are in a place of self-expression. And so I was aware of this statistic, and I started being aware of how I was showing up as a parent. And here's where I think the likelihood of how could you say no so many times versus yes as a parent who's a conscious parent and intentional. Well, for me, how it showed up is I noticed that when I would see my son maybe getting too close to the stairs, and I'd be like, no, 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 no. Versus when he does something amazing, like takes a first step on the stairs, and I'm like, yes. But I only said yes once, and I said no a ton of times. So I was like, well, that's one way that I could be adding to the statistic. And I just started asking myself, and I'm not perfect about it, by the way, but I'm aware of it, which is, I think, an incredible, first of all, it's the first part of being emotionally intelligent is being self-aware. And the second thing is that once you're self-aware, that's the hardest part, is can my ego take this? Can I let myself be aware that I'm perpetuating something that I don't want to and choose to do something different, even if it's imperfect, but it's at least an attempt at something that might be better. And that I can be proud of myself for. So I let myself go through the discomfort of like, oh, I'm perpetuating that statistic, how I'm talking to him. How can I say yes to him as often as possible? And not in a way that I'm not being a parent and I'm not keeping him safe and I'm not having boundaries and I'm not teaching him that there are consequences for our actions and all of the other important things that our communication as a parent is in a healthy way designed to have us as an authority figure. How can I be an authority in his life without dimming his shine or his creativity or his fearlessness or courage, I should say. We all have fear.
Yeah.
It's not about being without fear, but he's so brave. And part of that is because he doesn't know things that can hurt him yet. But, how often can I say yes to him? I want to be a different statistic in his life. And so I've just started saying yes, followed by sharing what the requirements are for him to achieve that yes. So when he asks, can he drive the car? And he's not old enough to drive a car. Yes. When you have your license. Can you have dessert? Yes. After you finish your broccoli.
Can I stay up late tonight? No. Can I da 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 da? It's not that I'm never going to say no,
Right.
but it's about how often can I say yes? Because in any example, the answer could be like, no, not until you're old enough to drive the car. Or I could say yes when you're old enough to drive the car. And I think looking at the simplicity of where in your own life, for any of you that are listening, this isn't just a parenting hack. This, I believe, is it's an epidemic, really, in self-talk. We tell ourselves no, not until I'm 10 pounds lighter, not until I know X, Y, and Z, not until it's been hard, not until more time has gone by. What if you say yes?
When?
Once X, Y, and Z. And the other thing is that just the self-awareness piece in this process, sometimes it's like, it's not even about it being a yes or no. Sometimes it's like, is that even necessary at all? Does it have to be a limit? Does it have to be a yes or no? If I say yes, is there a condition that has to be met? Or is there a limiting belief that is holding me back from saying yes to myself now? Am I saying no on autopilot to my own dreams, to my own goals?
I wonder if that also, like, so as you're talking, what comes up is thinking and how I would say it to my child. It kind of got my brain thinking about for myself, if I change that talk of like, well, of course I can't be X right now because I don't have this, would not be much different in terms of the intent, or the, how do I want to say that? Like it's only the flip side of saying yes when I achieve this. And so the fallout though of no because I'm not is, well, now I've already started off short. Where the yes once I have would motivate me to achieve that goal. I feel like personally, that's how I could relate it to me. I was also thinking about, so once you had taught us, like I think you had brought it up in one of our training classes about the thing with Jackson, like I started trying it with Allie. And so Allie's 12, she's been living a life, and the no is so true. I've never been like, yes, you've got a great A. Instead, it's like, no, you can't do that. It was funny because she caught on to it. She started like, Mom, wouldn't that be the same as no? And I was like, well, yes. And I can't think of like the word I'm looking for, the phrase, but like, yes, it's the same, but no, it comes from a different place, because
It's
just by
energetically
no,
different.
okay.
So this is and I love that you brought that up, because no doesn't have to be a negative. It can be a positive. And I think when we say yes, there's almost a next level of, if there's a condition, right? Like sometimes it's just yes. Can I have more dinner, please? Yes. There's no condition. You can have more dinner. Can I drive a car? Yes. When you've got your license, right? There's a condition, and that condition for driving a car is applicable. So like, can you do heart surgery? Yes. If you're a trained heart surgeon. Like there's a condition, because there are significant consequences if that condition has not been met. When it comes to the inner talk and how often we say yes and no to ourselves, there's two things that, as I was listening to you talk about you talking to Allie, I'd love to add to the conversation. Number one, how are you talking to yourself? Would you talk to your daughter like that? Would you talk to your best friend like that? Number two is, when you say yes, is the condition that you're putting there, is there a reason for that condition that you agree with? So yes, you can do heart surgery when you're a heart surgeon. I agree with that condition. I do think if I'm not a heart surgeon, there are some things I need to do before that yes shows up. But something like, yes, do you like yourself? Yes, when I've lost 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that that's a required condition? No.
And by learning how to challenge, honestly, by challenging ourselves, challenging the rules, the beliefs, the limiting conditions, where it's again, it's not saying just say yes to everything without being aware of the consequences, but this is a way that we can be energetically intelligent and actually get a lot faster results and have more impact in the world. And not just about impact in the world. I mean, I'm a big picture thinker. I want to change like millions of lives. Not everybody has that desire on their heart, and that's not like better or worse, because I believe, and I think this is a shared value that you and I have, correct me if I'm wrong, but that us being our best selves does have an impact. And, you know, sometimes one of my clients is like such an introvert. She has a very small circle of people that she is comfortable engaging with. And the work that she's been doing on herself to start implementing this is drastically changing the relationship dynamics. Like, honestly, she's somebody that prefers to be invisible and just got a promotion at her job because they couldn't help but notice she's having more impact, even in her small circle. It's like, what's the global impact of that? It's not that she has to go personally interact with a million people, but she's making a difference in the way she's showing up as herself, being fully self-expressed more and more each day with confidence and with clarity. And the people she's connected to are being impacted by that. And so everyone they're impacting is being impacted by that. And so that ripple effect that just keeps on going and going and going. So to people that might be listening and they're a stay-at-home parent and they think, well, you know, why does it matter if I do this? Well, because you have 2 or 3 people, half a dozen people in your life that you interact with, you being a better version of yourself has an impact on those people who have an impact on other people who have an impact on other people.
That definitely is a shared value. And I had a conversation with one of my clients on that last week. So we look at our circles and we think, oh, so somebody who's very introverted might hear, I want to have an impact on millions of people, and automatically hear that you want to be personally involved in a million lives. That's not what you just said, though. And so when we learn to think differently, I'm a huge proponent for that. There are certain people attached to us. There are certain people in our lives that we are intended to have an influence on. That may look different for both of us. For you, it may be thousands of people that then go impact thousands that impact thousands. And for me, it may be that 2 people, and one of them goes on to be the president and one of them goes on to be United Nations ambassador or something. And those people then influence. And yet we both reached a million people. We did it through a very different subset of individuals. And when I was talking with her, her business is very much oriented. It's one-on-one. So there's only so many hours in a week that she can be available, which equals so many clients. So at some point you have to sleep, sweetie. Sometime you have to eat. Sometime you got to pay attention to those little ones that you brought into this world. And so when we were talking about this, she started to feel really down. Well, I'm not going to be able to have the impact. And that's where it really, I just want to drive that home for anyone watching, because it's not about the numbers that you personally touch. So like your client who got the promotion and people are seeing that, that's individual lives that you're touching, Bethany, through your work with her. They may never meet you. They may walk by you on the side of the street and not even know, like, oh, that's who affected her. But yet you had an impact in their lives. We have a client of mine that, like, we call your grandbaby client, because through working with you, I developed that program that I offered to her. That never would have happened had I not been working with you, because I wasn't opening that side of my brain to those particular opportunities. So I think it's really important that we understand our reach doesn't necessarily mean we personally touch those people. It's about the impact we have and the lives they impact. So for anyone watching, please don't ever get caught up in the numbers. Especially, that's such a big thing with social media. This week I've been watching like The Social Dilemma and hearing all these conversations on just how addicted we are. The likes and all that mean nothing, and you could have 1 million likes and not influence a single person. So don't get influence caught up into social media or number of people. get it caught up in who you are directly affecting, and that's it. The numbers work themselves out. You may never even know. I've got a foster
Well, I
mother who will
think
never know what she did in my life because she died long before I ever knew the impact she had. And today, her impact is very much shown all over my life. But she'll never know that because she was gone. I'm still a number for her. I'm still a soul, like a person.
1,000% I agree with
Yeah.
this. And it's, I would encourage people to just assume you're going to impact 1 million people, whether you talk to 10 people or 100. And there's some statistics that support this as well. The average number used to be 250 people that would show up at a funeral or a wedding. I think that number is closer to 120 now, based on more recent surveys. That said, those are life events of like people that you had an intense impact on. And if you imagine that they're each connected to, I did all the math years ago based on the current information at the time, which was 250. I haven't rerun the numbers at the 120, but you can just think like all of a sudden it's 120 people who also impact 120 people. You just do that one level.
Yeah.
And we're at
240 and all that. Yeah.
I mean, like we're talking thousand, and then you think about 6 degrees of separation, which is another very proven statistic, like that every single human on this earth is connected in six connections or less.
Okay.
So if we do some simple math, like I am not even going to
try. 14,400 is 120 times 120. I was doing 120 plus 120. So that's like at one funeral, 14,400 people impacted, for number geeks out there.
Yeah. And now if we take this 6 times, so the average person, so
Yep.
120 times 120 times 120, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like close to 3 million. I am. I'm totally breaking the calculator. It's like exponentially, like it's almost 3 million people. And
That's
so when we
awesome.
start thinking about like, that's just from an average person. And then there are certain people in the world that are super connectors, or that are basically have a natural gift and talent to be more influential. And we have some of those. So it's like, just assume. It's safe to assume. Normally, I'm not a big fan of assuming, but it's safe to assume that your life matters and that you have an impact, even if we work with the smallest numbers. And if you imagine throughout your lifetime that there is millions of people, like you shared, that there's someone that passed away before she could possibly know the impact she had. The level of like, that might scare some people too, right? Like that might be like, oh, I don't want that much responsibility. But I think it's worth challenging and saying like, well, it's gonna happen. So what do you want that impact to be? You probably want it to be the best version of yourself. And again, it's not about being perfect. One of the things I really own in my own life is I share my mess. Not usually when I'm in the middle of it. I do believe in responsible storytelling. I share the mess when I'm in the middle of it with people that are going to help me get through the mess, and people that are part of my inner circle or my support team, my coaches and mentors. But when I'm on the other side, I'm going to share, how did I lead myself through that, and what went wrong? And, like, you can go back years in my career and see how I've done this over and over and over and over again. And it has never once ruined my reputation to admit that I'm not perfect. It has never once caused me, the biggest fears I had were that if people knew I struggled with X, Y, and Z, I would lose all my clients, or people wouldn't love me anymore, or I would have friends make fun of me, or I'd have people talking about me, or I'd have haters online. I mean, guys, like, I get that there's fear around being vulnerable and being honest. And I also know that being my best self has required me to work through the stuff that I was personally struggling with. And that by sharing the struggle and the process and like the results,
I'm on the other side of it and it's worked out well because of X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be, whatever the lesson is, that's part of my impact. And whether I share that with a few people, whether I share it publicly, to tens of thousands of people, that's still part of my impact. And it requires bravery and it requires a level of personal responsibility. But because I've decided to not make it a heavy weight that, oh, I'm going to impact a lot of people, so now I'm stressed out. I'm like motivated by that. I'm excited by that. And that's a choice. And that's a skill set.
Absolutely. I think there's two ways we can look at life, right? We can be pressured by the outcome we want, or we can be excited for the possibilities with it. One of the things I have is, like, step out of your fears and into your possibilities. Every one of us, like you said earlier, we all have fear. There's truly no such thing as fearlessness. We throw it around because it sounds pretty and the quotes are really good and they make great Instagram graphics for those of us on Instagram. But the truth is, everybody's got a fear in some way or some capacity. And I love one of the trainings you did with us, and I come back to it a lot, is when I identify a fear, I've learned to say, like, so what? And you taught us like that walking through that period. And so now I've realized I spend more time in the possibility. So what if this doesn't happen? What comes from it? And is that a bad thing, or is that a good thing? Am I fearing this because I fear something that's true, or am I fearing this because I fear something that is made up in my mind, and I'm just looking for reasons to not do it? And so as I've challenged myself that way, I've impressed myself with how I show up. And that's a really good feeling. I think we spend so much time, a lot of us, not everybody obviously, but in this like negative self-talk cycle, or in this bringing it back to like the kids with this cycle of no, and coming from this negative place, that when you start to look at possibilities, yes, possibility is what can happen. We use the example of, so what if you do a live and nobody shows up? That actually is translated into, at my nonprofit job, we just launched a nonprofit webinar series where I've literally said, we may not have anybody show up, but hey, if you're willing to try it, let's do it. And that now is, we're booking out until May, all because of something I learned. And so, that ties into both the impact that now that impact goes to all those individuals, but also into that sticking in that place of possibility. When we look at life as, well, I need to touch 1 million people, that comes from that place of lack, right? When you read like You Are a Badass and you think about like coaching principles, I need equals I lack, which equals I'm coming into it negatively. Not all the time. Like, I need self-time. I'm going to get it, whether it's negative or
yeah,
positive.
I need or I want. And there's also, I just want to pop in
Sure.
the concept that, not everybody wants to make an impact. I think that's part of where what I was sharing is like, well, I know it might be a little challenging for some people to hear that, well, you're going to have one anyway. So like, step up your game and make sure it's what you want the impact to be. But the other side is that most people are tuned to the radio like station WIIFM. What's in it for me? And the start of like, I want to address that because I think that's really important, is that the impact we have on other people isn't about what we do for them or what we give them or what we say to them. It's who are we being when we're in connection with them, when they're watching us. Sometimes it might not even be something that we do, say, or give. We might not even be aware of how many people are watching. And so what's in it for you that are listening to hopefully be inspired, probably maybe a little triggered, and I'm okay with that. But it's not about all the external stuff. The simplest way to increase the positive impact that you have is actually for you to be who you want to be. It's all about you. And it just naturally impacts other people. And so, yes, I loved that you were talking about I need versus I want. Another powerful reframe there is when you catch yourself saying, I can't. and replace that with I won't.
Mm-hmm.
I can't lose weight. I won't lose weight. I can't make more money. I won't make more money. I can't quit my job. I won't quit my job. I can't leave a relationship. I won't leave this relationship. I can't start dating again. I won't start dating again. When we start owning our power with that simple shift, it's another way to put us in the driver's seat of our own life. And that means that whatever road trip you're on, whatever your life journey looks like, at least you're in the driver's seat, and you're not letting fear be in the driver's seat. You're not letting other people's expectations be in the driving seat. You're not letting, a parent or a child or a bully from middle school that's still in your head dictating your decisions. Recognize that, if I won't, why not? What is it that I won't?
I think that's the important thing there, right? So taking it like with a lot of who this audience is, there's a lot of creatives, a lot of business owners. So taking that, and you like to do this with the drill three layers down. So the I can't to the I won't, when I was taught that, we looked at it. So like, I can't lose weight. I won't lose weight. Step one. But why won't I? Because I won't wake up earlier, because I won't start exercising 3 hours. Those are the choices I'm making. And once you hear yourself start to understand, and another way to say this would be like a lot of the places, the world happening to you versus what you can change. I can't get a promotion. Okay, I won't get a promotion, but why won't I? Because I'm unwilling to speak up for myself that I want one. I'm unwilling to ask for a raise or a promotion because I'm unwilling to learn this new skill. Once we start looking at what is the piece we own, now I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm choosing what exit I'm taking. And once we start to hear that, that really changed a lot for me when I was in my space over the last couple of years of like, why isn't anything working out? Blah, blah, blah. And if you had talked to me in that space, and you were one of the people walking along that, it was just like, man, everything was happening two. And I love, like you taught me, things happen they happen for us. And I love that. And this helped me take it like that other level too, of it can't happen to me for me, if I'm unwilling to do things, if I'm unwilling to be open. More money could be waiting for me, but if I'm not willing to receive it, what good is it? If I'm not willing to open up that door to that person who has that check for me, that money is going to be out there, and it's for me to open it. And I think we've gotten into a culture, and not to go too deep down that, but where we allow a lot of outside influences. And for some people that is absolutely true, but for the majority of us, we do have an ability to change things. We can step into that next level of greatness, next power of ourselves. And I think we hear this stuff when we think, especially in the Christian atmosphere, like, oh, that's so whoa. It's in the Bible, guys. Jesus didn't say, please wake up, be mediocre, and then die and come with me. Like, it was all about being your best self, being who you were created to be, letting those powers come through. And I think when we start to own that, it becomes like, for me, I feel like this year's been my best year. Everybody's like 2020 is canceled. I'm like, please don't, I cancel those prayers. Like I am enjoying this self-reflection, and the lack of all the outside influence and stimulation has helped that for someone like me who is a people pleaser and gets caught up in it. So I love the reframing ideas in this, and looking at yes versus no. And so you teach a lot of these principles, and you go deeper with them in different programs that you have. So can we talk a little bit about the Kaizen woman and the Kaizen experience and the Kaizen woman? So we have your program and your company and et cetera, and then you have specific programs within it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I really would like for people to understand what you do and how you show up for people who choose to work with you further, because I think a lot of people should hear about this.
I would love to. Before we do that, though, I would love to just connect the two. I feel like there was so much gold in that past thing where it's like the reframe around like I need to or I want to, and then the I can't or I won't. What I think is really beautiful is that they are actually connected. So it's not an either or. We earlier in this conversation, however many weeks ago when we started it, talked about taking a stand for the and. That's something I do. And it's one of my natural gifts is to be able to connect a lot of dots for people. So if you go back and forth, like play with the I need to, I want to, play with the I can't, I won't. And I won't isn't always about making yourself wrong. It's actually an incredible exercise to go through to figure out what you want. Because if I won't get that promotion because I won't work 80 hours a week that I know comes with that promotion, then you don't want to work 80 hours a week and you can start exploring. But if you do want to make more money, now you have some clarity around like, I want this, I won't do that, but I will do this, and I need this, but I want that. Like you can start, they come together when you just give yourself permission to explore. So I just wanted to tie those two little nuggets together.
I so wish I was like graphic, because so for all of you watching who are creatives, you got to reach out to me if you know how to make Bethany's hands just create thought bubbles, because I won't, like that would be such a perfect visual for somebody.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
So if you have that skill, reach out to us, because we need to talk about your rates. So that was just such a great thing. So yes, and then now talking, because it was a great point, and I love that, and you are perfect with that. It's something I value about your coaching, is how you're able to, where I feel like I've hit a brick wall and I'm at the dead end, and even when I've turned around and I'm trying to look back, you're like, well, hold on a second, did you see that little mouse door down there? It's like, if you drink the bottle on the table, you can fit through that. And so that is something that's a gift that you have, and that, I can attest to personally. So talk with us, because Kaizen Woman is
so
launched recently, right?
Yes, yes, the Kaizen Woman is my brand.
Okay.
I am who I am, and I show up as Bethany, and I'm a mom, and I'm a wife, and I'm a friend, and I'm a business owner, and I'm a coach, and I'm an amateur boxer, and right, like there's all these sides of me. And the Kaizen Woman is essentially the name of my brand, because it is all those things of me as a person, but it's packaged up in a way to help people identify how they are a Kaizen woman. And Kaizen is a word that means it's the art of mastering, continually improving. So all the things we've talked about, having impact, being perfectly imperfect, all the tools and coaching exercises. I've been a coach for over 2 decades, and I have multiple certifications, everything, I've studied, my first degree is sports medicine. I've studied quantum physics. Like, you guys don't need my resume, but all of these things are pieces that I bring to the Kaizen Woman, which is, I do have a free Facebook group where I actually interview other people. It's not me talking to you. It's me highlighting other people who demonstrate being a Kaizen woman, which is someone who is committed to continually improving. And the point of that interview series is to help inspire anyone who watches that there's someone that looks like them. There's someone that has the same struggles in their past, and there's someone that thinks like them, and has had the same fears and doubts and circumstances and situations that seemed impossible, and yet they got through it. So we highlight all different kinds of people on this interview series, which we're actually starting up round 2 of soon. So I'm so excited for that. The brand is, that's the mission. I believe that a life well lived is the best legacy any human can leave. And so you being more confident, you being someone who has access to the amount of money that you desire to have access to, so that money is never making a decision for you in your life. To me, freedom is having options. I don't need fancy in all areas of my life. There are some areas of my life I very much enjoy fancy. I have expensive taste, but I don't make myself wrong for that anymore. And I don't want, I don't believe that money or self-worth or something that you could learn, a skill that you could learn, don't go through your whole life not just continually improving. So we're all on a journey. We've never arrived. It's a universal law. Trees don't stop growing. Flowers don't apologize for being a bud when they're a bud, and then for blooming when they bloom. It's life. It's how we're designed to be. And so with that as my brand, we've actually created the Kaizen experience because I do have so many programs. And I've actually recently trademarked energetic intelligence, which I'm so excited to be doing more work with. And this is how I believe, like you said, I connect the dots. It's a natural thing I do because I have such a diverse and qualified background, everything from quantum physics to psychology to high performance physically, to emotional intelligence to communication skills, bringing this all together in a way that it's like, dude, nobody wants to, well, some people would love to take a course on that. But most people just want to know, but how can I use this in my life? And so by connecting the dots, what I've put together, I'm really excited. In the next few months, we'll be opening the doors to a brand new, updated, upgraded version of ways that you can get access to my 6 signature programs. And you can have a personal development option, or you can have a professional, like, entrepreneur option. So,
nice.
So we're going to be making it really simple. And there's going to be lots of support and access to me in a way I've never offered before, because what I've spent the last year and a half doing is going through almost 20 years worth of not just content, not just like stuff in our brain. I did spend a lot of time learning, but it's about how do you take it from your head and live it? How do you take it from something you know to someone that you be? And really fast tracking that process for people. And I can't give too many of the details away right now, but that is, in a nutshell, what I do is I help people figure out what they want and how to get it in an ethical and profitable way.
And with the Kaizen experience, will one of the opportunities still be that encompasses a lot of the programs that you're executing throughout the year versus buying them individually? Or will people be able to buy each package separately?
We're gonna have a VIP option where you get all the Bethany Vault and you get all the things, but what we're working on right now is actually repackaging it in a way so that it's not just, I think in my team was organizing all the trainings I've done and all the PDFs and the videos, and like, nobody wants 500 hours of information. They want to know, like, what do I need to, here's where I am, here's where I want to be, what piece do I need to get there? So we are gonna have an option that's very focused on almost like immediate transformation. And then we're going to have a VIP option that's more comprehensive and expected. Basically, you're going to get a longer period of support access from me without it being an overwhelming amount of information. So I'm really, I hope that answers the question enough, with like, I can't tell you everything yet, but keep your eyes tuned.
Good. And it's also, I think, hard when you have somebody who's a client or has been a client and they're used to one way of working with you, and then you rebrand and it's like, oh, well, not like that anymore. So that's why I want to be careful too. So those of you who know,
I want to speak to that actually, because every time I have made a change, it's one thing that I think is a fear, whether people are an entrepreneur or not. When we make a change is scary and nobody likes change. So you want to answer what's in it for me. Every time I have made a change in my business, it has been an upgrade for people who are already with me. And that is something I intentionally create. Sometimes I give extra to help that transition. I make sure that I am always doing something that's a higher expression of me. It is better for me. It's gonna, anything I do, it should be better for me. And I'm committed that it's also better for anyone that's with me. So
you know what, that's a great point to make, because I think sometimes as entrepreneurs we get so scared about, well, what are the people that are with me? Like Sandy Krakowski, somebody I follow on the copywriting side. She's really great with how to copyright, how to sell things with the direct marketing. And so I did her program. She had opened up the Inner Circle for like $27 a month. That is unreal. That was like a no-brainer for me. I've been eyeing that program for like years, but was never willing to commit because I put my money elsewhere with coaches I work one-to-one on with. Well, when she did that, she was sharing with us a couple months ago, she did that all across the board to every one of her clients. I was thinking, like most of us would never think of doing something like that, but it got me thinking. So I'm actually glad you mentioned this. When we make change, we're always thinking about, well, what will somebody else think if they're already with us? And I can attest to having been with you. I've never felt like, oh my gosh, I saw that, like Comcast. I'm going through a thing with them right now because it's like, why did the new people get this amazing deal, but I'm still paying $600 a month? Not really, but for my package of 4 channels, like that's how it feels sometimes, or Sprint or everything. And I love that as a coach, you have never done that. And that's helped me in my own business to always make sure the people with me always feel that they're taken care of. And then these new programs can evolve also. So I'm not stuck to, well, this person bought this from me 10 years ago and I need to make sure it's okay. I just didn't want to give away too much because I know with the evolving, I never want to be like, well, this is the program I'm in and all the pieces. So I wanted to clarify that detail. I love that
here's my disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my disclaimer. I always reserve the right to get smarter and improve and change my mind. And in the course of, I've now been in business for myself for over a decade. I have changed my programs and offerings quite a lot. And again, I give myself permission to start with me, because I know that if I desire it, if I'm excited about it, if I'm feeling self-expressed, if I'm feeling that it's my best way that I can give back, I'm going to love whatever I'm doing in a way that's going to have a bigger impact on people. Because when we're excited about what we're doing, people listen in a different way. We're energetically, and it's just, well, I'm not going to go too deep into a training, but it just works. It matters.
Yeah.
If you're not excited about what the change is that you're making, then it's going to be very hard for other people to get on board. I'm also very conscious about, then I put myself in other people's shoes and I say, does this honor the people that have already invested in me? And how can I help them make a best decision if they want to continue with me? It's not about discounting. It's not about giving away the farm. It's not about apologizing. It's about just being creative. Like you guys, you're creative. We all have the ability to create. And also it's where, when I'm intentional about caring, how am I going to present this to them? How much time are people going to need to adjust? How can I make sure I'm focused on what's in it for them? How can I address that? I've already done, my job is not to tell them like, oh, this is going to help me make more money and work less hours and like my life better. They don't care about that. They're humans that want to know what's in it for me. So I do the work on myself, and I'm not wrong for being clear about what's in it for me. But I want to also be very, again, intentional and respectful that they don't care about what I'm getting out of it. If I have a big goal, like, for example, if I wanted to buy a new house and I was like, I'm putting this program together and everyone that comes and buys it right now is going to help us like buy a new house. Like, I would share that a little bit because people like to be part of a journey and part of a goal. But when it comes to making changes that are just kind of like, for me, I mean, my brand is the Kaizen Woman. I am constantly improving. So this means there are, anywhere from probably once a year, there's either a new program or there's a new, like a restructure that happens. And it's not drastic usually, but it's different. And by going through this, I really speak to the people when I'm sharing about it. I speak to what are they maybe worried about losing? What are they afraid of? And also, I don't take responsibility for people needing to come with me every level I go. I'm going to be constantly improving. Some people are going to be like, they're going to meet me at this level and go to this level with me. And then our time is done. Our journey is complete. And that's okay.
And that is such an important thing. I think so many times we think of, well, what will this person think, or it doesn't matter. Not everybody's assigned.
I'm not going to slow my growing down to make you more comfortable.
Sometimes you need to say goodbye because those people are holding your boat to the shore, and oh man, Dr. Darius Daniels, I think the last 3 of these I have plugged them. I just need to get like a bulk discount on this guy's book. So Dr. Daniels, if you're watching, contact me. But his book, Relational Intelligence, you have energetic intelligence. We've talked about emotional intelligence. I really think people should add this. It does come from a Christian perspective. So for people watching, I know we've got all religions and faiths, but he comes from like Jesus has the 2, the 12, and the many. And it is so good about like, there's certain people meant to be in with us through it, they're walking through it, they're seeing everything. There's others who saw moments. Not every one of those disciples saw the same things. Not everyone was invited everywhere, but they still were closer than the many who are the people he had the reach on. And reading that book, like, he went down as to, like, sometimes you got to say goodbye, and you know what, since you're a little scared, let me show you how to do it. And he gave like scripts on how to say goodbye, but then he also gave a permission that I think is so important for all of us to know, is you don't have to. Not everybody needs a conversation about why we're not friends anymore, or why you're not coming to the next level for me. Sometimes you just need to make that cut and go. And, if there needs to be a conversation, the people will come to you. They'll see it. Most people, we're adults now. We're not in high school anymore, so we can leave that. But so I think that is such a good key, is that we don't have to think or hold ourselves back based on who's not willing to come with us to that next level.
Well, it's like that concept of the crabs in the bucket.
Yes.
Where for those of you that maybe don't know this analogy, if you have a bucket of crabs and one crab is trying to get out of the bucket, the other crabs will actually pull them back in. And now here's the thing. So if you imagine, if you're hanging out if the crabs in your life are like, oh, this stinks being in this bucket, and like da. And then so they see somebody get close to the edge and they're like, hey, you get back here where we can all talk about how much it stinks being stuck in this bucket. Now, if the conversation shifted and it was like, all right, crabs, it stinks being in this bucket. If you let me climb on top of your shoulders and then you climb on top of mine, and I think we can reach out, and then everybody else can climb up, it's who we're surrounded. I mean, it's like a Wayne Dyer thing, like the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and da. But this bucket and the crabs in the bucket thing, and Lisa Nichols talks about this a lot as well, where she talks about how she had to leave the people she loved the most, cared about the most, like her family, like her community. She had to leave to improve herself so that she could come back and help them someday, but she couldn't help them until she had helped herself. And, so there's so many, other people that you can learn from around this. And that's why I think it's so important for us as individuals and to be creative and to be fully self-expressed, because each of you that's listening, there is a gift you have and a way that you express it that no one else in the world can do how you do. I don't care if you're a painter and you're like, well, there's a million other painters, or you're a coach and there's a million other coaches, or you're whatever, you're an author. Well, so there's so many books on this topic. Nobody can do it like you. And this is part of the power of being aware of what is our energetic blueprint. Like I use human design. I'm a certified human design professional, and I bring that into a lot of my programs and coaching, where we look at what is your energetic blueprint. That's how you are. It's like, what is your eye color? What is your natural hair color? Like, that's just what it is. And you can try to put contacts in and change, dye your hair if you want. But at the end of the day, that's who you are. And when you're aware of what your energetic blueprint is, then all of the things that expressed through your body make more sense. Like when you get tension in your shoulders versus your gut, our bodies give us so many clues when we know how to make sense of them. And then so we have our energy happening, we have our body giving us clues, and then our brain, our incredible brain, has hormonal reactions, it has feelings, it has thoughts, and it does this thing with them. And that's actually something we can get better at navigating. We can't control, we can't not think something or not feel something, but we can get better at what do we do after we have that thought or after we have that feeling. That's emotional mastery. And by bringing it all together, then how do we express ourselves, whether it's verbally or creatively or artistically or through our business or through how we love people? How do we be? That all of that together is energetic intelligence, and all of that is available to each of us in a very simplified way. It does not have to be overwhelming. It does not have to be complicated. It might be uncomfortable sometimes. It might be, it's an adventure. When you're willing to go on a personal development journey, it's always an adventure, but it's something I am so passionate about. And I really hope that our conversation has given people a lot of tangible takeaways that you could start, if you're listening still, man, I would love to hear from you at some point, or, you can reach out to Shell. I'm sure she would love to hear if there's something you start doing differently, if there's something that has given you a spark of hope or joy or inspiration or an aha moment. find me. I love getting messages like that. And it's, to me, if there's anything inside of you that's like, yeah, but I can't, listen to this whole conversation again.
Yeah.
Because you can.
And I think also, thank you so much for that, Beth. There's so many nuggets here, guys. I know that I think when you merge the two of them together, it's going to be like maybe about an hour and a half long video. And so thank you for sticking around. I think the conversation has been amazing. Bethany, thank you for coming back for part 2. So those of you who've watched it all the way through and didn't fast forward, you know that there was a storm in the middle. And so we had a couple parts. That's why we had the wardrobe change in the middle. You can reach out. There's a few things I want to make sure that you guys catch. And that is, I believe in the first part, if we didn't talk about it, go to bethperry.com, and there you will find your superpower. That's still there, right? The superpower quiz.
Yes.
Okay.
What's your success?
Oh, I forgot to ask
what's your success superpower? I will tell you for free. And actually, the report, like, it's a lot of information in. It's a free quiz. It's fun to take, but the report, I put a lot of work into it. I want it to be a valuable resource to you. So make sure that you're ready to, like, bookmark the page. You don't have to give me your email address to see what your results are. But if you do, then we send you the link to your results in your email, so you can always access it and have it for easy. Cause it's people have told me I should charge for it.
She should. And I can attest, I've looked at mine multiple times. So it's something that sits right over here off to my little arm reach over here. And I like to look at it, and it's very well done. So make sure you go to that if anything here has resonated with you. And I think men can do that part too, right? We've been speaking mostly to women, but men, you are welcome to find out your superpower as well. Also, Kaizen women, make sure that if anything resonated with you, and especially those of you who felt scared, those of you who felt like, man, you guys have talked about so much, and we gave you a lot of nuggets. I have a feeling it's not gonna be hard to find little quotes from this one and share. And so join the Kaizen Woman. It's a nice, safe group. There's discussion in there. There's the interviews have been amazing. I'm still working my way through round 1 of watching them, but there has been some powerful woman, and it's not always what you think of. Like, some of them you might watch and be like, oh, I didn't even realize that could be considered powerful. And yet you start hearing the stories, you start hearing how people change. We in society have gotten so mixed up on what it means to be powerful. It doesn't always look the same. This is a breadth of women, just so widely different and vastly diverse among one another. And so I loved that. I love that there were like no two who were the same. So that was beautiful. Yes. And then third is to look, if something really resonated you and you want to run deeper, be sure on bethperry.com to reach out to Bethany. You can and learn more about the services that she offers. So yes. Thank you. Any last, I don't want to say last words, but any last thoughts before we close today?
I appreciate you having me on so much. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's listened. It is, again, it's my intention that you are a better version of yourself for having spent the hour and a half or however long it was with me and Shell. Time always flies when I'm talking to you, Shell. It's an honor and a privilege for me, I feel, to do the work I do in the world. And I have a lot of pride in it, but I take a lot of responsibility for the fact that it does have an impact. And it took me a long time to own my power. And my wish for everyone listening is that you step more fully into your own power right now. Don't wait. Don't wait for a near-death experience or a obvious sign. Like, the sign is you're here. And I hope that if you do feel it in your heart, that you stay connected with me. Find me on Instagram at the Kaizen Woman. Come join us on Facebook in the Kaizen Woman Facebook group, or visit my website and get on my email list there. Like, however you best like to be supported. Everything I do is my intention to continue to add value and support you in your journey wherever you are in it. And it means the world to me that you would take the time to get to know us here. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Beth.
Bye, everybody.